What's going on, guys? Willem Carver here, and tonight I am doing another concert review, which I have not done in quite a while. It's currently 1 o'clock in the morning, and I probably should be sleeping right now, but I don't feel like doing that. I've been playing Silent Hill 2 for the past few hours, and I don't feel like doing that anymore, so I thought I would talk about Ghost. Ghost just played here in Sacramento on Friday night, and it was a killer show, and I have a lot of opinions to unpack about the show and Ghost in general. I got into them in 2020, just before COVID hit. And then I've had a very on and off thing. I went to liking them, to not really caring, then being obsessed, then not being obsessed, then having a whole bunch of opinions that no one really should care about the music. It's just one of those bands that I'm probably just going to be loyal to in the long run. This was my 5th time seeing Ghost. The last time I had seen them was at the Right Here, Right Now taping, so I have been completely oblivious to the Skeleta Papa 5 era. I keep up with the lore a tiny bit, but I'm just not too into what they're doing right now as far as lore goes. Just not really my thing. First things first, the stage set itself was gorgeous, and you can definitely tell that they've increased their budget since the last time I saw them on the Imperacycle. I had seen probably 2 minutes of footage from this entire era, so I was going into this pretty blank. I didn't really know what to expect. I will say that Ghost in the modern era feels a little bit more of a theatrical performance as opposed to a concert. Obviously, the music is great, but you can tell everything feels very planned out in advance. Every pivot, every turn, every movement that every band member makes, it feels very rehearsed. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but as someone who sees most of his shows in small clubs, I do prefer a bit more of an intimate feel, which obviously if you're playing an arena, that's not your main priority. But it's just something to note. It's definitely changed a lot over the years. Although if we have to get a little bit artificial with the performance to get that gorgeous, gorgeous stage set, I am all for it. That thing was beautiful. It was arguably the best stage set that I have seen ever. I really couldn't see the Striper-esque cross from where I was sitting, which is a bit of a bummer. But the stage lights were great, the screen with the stained glass and then the inflatable windows, especially when that collapsed at the end of year 0 and the glass broke and they did some other stuff. That was probably my favorite part of the entire show. And when they played Call Me Little Sunshine and Papa 5 came up on the way back with that super long robe, that may be the best look for a Papa I think I've seen yet. That was just so imposing. And to have him in the back looking out onto everything, I think was a super cool call. And I also like that the stage set itself has gone back to feeling more like a church as opposed to with Impera, where it just felt a little bit more rustic. I think it feels a lot more like the pre-Kel era stage, which I think is a good call. This was probably the best set list I've ever seen from Ghost. I do prefer their older stuff to their newer stuff. Big surprise, I know. So it was pretty cool to finally hear Monstrance Clock. That is one of my favorite songs they ever did. And to hear it live, finally, was super cool. I did mention that I'm not too big of a fan of Skeleta. I think it's too much of an 80s throwback, which obviously Ghost does capture that retro sound, but I think it's just a little too much. However, the 4 songs that they did play, Peacefield, Lycrima, am I pronouncing that right? Satanized, and Umbra, I think are the 4 best songs on that album, so hey, no fish, no foul. There were really only 2 hiccups with the set list that I had. The first one is that they played Darkness at the Heart of My Love, which is, in my opinion, their lamest song, both musically and lyrically. And the other one is that I had a friend who went to 3 shows on this tour, and he said that they were alternating between Perispera and Elizabeth, 2 songs I had not heard, and they played Faith. I heard Faith at literally every other show that I had been to. And I had not heard either of those 2 songs. So I was excited to hear one of those. So my disappointment was immeasurable when I heard Faith. I do want to be clear, Faith is a good song. I would have rather heard either of those other 2. But other than those 2, the set list was probably the best one since I gotten into being a fan. So even if Ghost has become a little bit artificial and arguably have sold out quite a bit, the fact doesn't change that I can still go to one of their shows and have such a good time. The vibes are great. The people are great. The show is great. Some things just don't change, and Ghost being an entertaining live show is one of them. And speaking of the fans, I will talk about that as well. If you were around in 2022, you know that Mariana Cross went viral on TikTok, and as such, it did attract a different fan base than Ghost had had previously. And the band got a lot more popular as a result, but the cultural norms and the idiosyncrasies amongst the fan base changed quite a bit. A lot of older fans checked out, and a lot of newer fans came in. At the beginning, I was admittedly a little bit of a gatekeeper. Now I really just don't give a shit. People can do what they want. And I am glad I have that perspective now, because when you're at a ghost show, you see a lot of people smiling and a lot of cool costumes and a lot of bracelet trading and stickers being handed out. It's not something that I, as a 24-year-old metal fan, will involve myself in, but to see kids out there having fun, smiling, getting out of the house, getting away from screens, I think that's always a healthy thing. And to see Ghost have a fan base that encourages that, I think, regardless of what my dumbass thinks, is a great call. Last thing I'll talk about is the no phone thing, which I have already had some prior experience with at Ghost. I was at right here, right now, so a bit of a veteran at that. It has a lot of mixed opinions, and I myself am mixed on it as well. I don't go to shows at arenas too often. It's mostly smaller clubs, and I can usually deal with 1 or 2 phones up for 30 seconds at a time. But I have been to Ghost shows where someone in front of me had their phone up for 90% of the show. And yeah, it's quite annoying. So to sit in a crowd as big as the Ghost one and not have to worry about something impeding my view, even though I would have loved to have had a 30 to 45 second video of Monstrance Clock, I think is a very fair trade. And I will say, they were pretty militant about policing phones and kicking people out. So that was something. But that's pretty much going to wrap this up. Overall, it was a very fun experience, although it is getting a bit too big for my britches. I'll definitely see Ghost again in the future when they come back from whatever hiatus they're hinting at right now. But as I mentioned, the Ghost fandom and being overly obsessed and collecting every single t-shirt and action figure, it's something that I can do without. So I'll see Ghost again for sure, but it's a different vibe. It's a different world. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. If you've seen Ghosts in the past or you saw them on this tour, please let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I hope to see you guys again back next time. Good night. Oh!